A few years back I covered, sort of, the first game in the Jump Ahead Year 2 stable. It covered everything: reading, spelling, geography, lots and lots of maths. But to me it felt a bit surface. I remember playing it when I was little, but not as much as the other games in the series. In the original game, CJ the Frog looked after the quote-unquote secret clubhouse in the local school, but 1997's Jump Ahead reading showed us his true nature, as a master treasure hunter and archaeologist. Remind you of anyone?
According to ancient legend, there was once a grand and beautiful city called Ursulab. It disappeared without a trace centuries ago. The search continues, even now.
The game opens with this wonderful FMV sequence which, while it's not on the level of something like humongous games, is certainly cartoon quality. And much like the start of Jurassic Park, it seems that CJ doesn't do his own digging, he gets a team of gophers to do the dirty work for him. Very good.
CJ!
We found it! The sacred tablet of the lost city of Ursulab. I can't believe it!
It's just great! Now we can get out of here!
We're also introduced to the villain of the piece, one Dr. Listic and his chicken goon. But hold on a sec, isn't this a reading game? Why all this exposition? Well, isn't learning better when there's a bit of a point to it? The whole experience becomes a lot more enticing as a result, especially for your average 5-year-old. Without it, you might as well just read a dictionary. As with the previous game in the series, Jump Ahead Reading is essentially a set of mini-games, each one based around a different area of the English language. Comprehension, tenses, compound words, alphabetisation, and parts of speech are all covered within different games. And to find those games, you have to take a trip around the world with CJ.
This must be the map the Elder put in my field book. Click on one of the sites and off we'll go.
You'll also come across some smaller games, such as these word searches that you need to solve in order to reach the main games. And there's even bosses. What more do you want?
You talk tough for someone who doesn't even have the jewel in his possession yet.
Touché. Yes, it seems we'll have to play a little game to retrieve the jewel.
So, they could have played this straight. They could have just had a list of games, and the games could have just been text-based affairs. And the truth is, if you were to take just the games themselves, Jump Ahead Reading would be a bit boring. It'd feel like being at school, and nobody wants that. This is where the narrative comes into play. It turns a relatively uninteresting word-based textbook program into a proper adventure game. The animations, writing, voices, and painted backgrounds make it feel like you're playing a cartoon. Crikey, this is starting to sound like an essay. In your quest to unearth the lost city of Ursulab, you'll visit 5 different locations around the world. Starting in Machu Picchu, you'll find yourself going to Egypt.
No one may enter until they have proven their worth by solving the puzzle.
Kumai.
Hello there. My name is Sybil, and I am the guardian of the caves.
Ayers Rock.
Did somebody mention jewels?
Maybe the wolf can help us.
I'm not a wolf, I'm a dingo.
And Atlantis?
Psst, you're looking for some jewels, huh?
Maybe. What's it to you?
Yeah, in looking for one lost city, you just casually stop by another one to play a game. Makes sense. Kumai is the strongest of the bunch. It's a simple platformer where you have to run around finding specific types of word. Machu Picchu is a similar sort of deal, except it's a multiple choice thing that reminds me of Cubit. Atlantis is quite basic. It involves dropping coins into a giant vase to complete a word. The coin dropping is super satisfying.
Speak, even the briny deep doesn't stop you.
Most of these can be done pretty quickly if you're smart enough. But then there's Egypt, and boy oh boy is this one tedious. You have to wait for these magic carpets to come floating nonchalantly across the screen, so you basically have no control over how quickly you can get through it. Not only that, but it's multiple rounds. The other games are just one. Finally, Ayers Rock. I don't mind this one, but it's not really a game. It's more of a memory test.
There's a secret to getting into the jewel room, and only those who listen closely will be able to do it.
You have to listen to Bingo the Dingo tell a story, and then answer his questions at the end to prove you've been paying attention. Not as bad as it sounds, honestly, and who can say no to that excellent Aussie accent? In and amongst, you'll also visit Stately Frog Manor. Every time you go back, you have to get past CJ's ridiculously secure door locks.
My butler McLeod has changed the locks again. He does this every time I leave the house.
Which involve finding the word that matches a given description. Sometimes it's synonyms, others it's rhymes. You get the idea. I should mention at this juncture that there are 3 difficulty levels. The educational content and the game itself have separate sliders, so I guess that's technically 9 difficulty levels? But since I'm a good 20 years older than the target market, I didn't really see a whole lot of difference in these levels. Mostly they just seem to introduce apostrophes. As for how effective it is as a learning tool, I'm not sure I can really say. For what it's worth, this is the game where I learnt what a compound word is, and what homophone means, and likely a whole host of other things too. For completing a game, you're rewarded with a ruby. Collect 9 and you get a diamond.
Sounds easy, huh? Wrong!
Under normal circumstances, this would seem reasonable. 9 rubies would take a 5-year-old several weeks to get, and theoretically it'd keep them busy for ages. But there are 2 flaws here, I find. The first is that a 5-year-old is likely to get bored of the game long before they finish it. I know I never got more than a quarter of the way through the game when I was little, and I have to wonder if it's just a little much to ask. Especially since the games themselves aren't really the strongest. The platforming is, as I said, very bare bones. It does a job, but you wouldn't want to play Super Mario World if it controlled like this. And there aren't very many of them. The original game had minigames coming out of its ears. And that brings me on to the second point. The fact that you need to complete each game 9 times. And that gets a bit tedious.
Just one? It seems such a waste.
We'll be back for the others, don't you worry.
Granted, most kids probably wouldn't play them consecutively like I did. But still, I wouldn't want to play Turtle Terror 9 times just to move on to Ballistic Bunny. Something I'd have liked to see would be a bit more exploration of these different locations. You get to click around a little bit when you first arrive, but beyond that you're just there for jewels. To go back to the original once again, every time you completed a game you get a little bonus. Would have been good to have a little extra here as well. Anyway, once you beat Dr. Listic at a poor man's Scrabble, you get to claim a diamond. Take it back to Stately Frog Manor, via the door locks, again, and watch.
Who has called me from this cramped, stuffy jewel?
I guess I did.
Oh, you're not exactly what I pictured our hero to look like, but thank you just the same.
Each diamond means another elder from the Lost City comes to visit. They don't generally have much to say, and dodge CJ's questions with a precision that politicians would envy. They're also very Disney. Aside from some slightly odd animation, these cutscenes are a lot of fun and make this whole experience worthwhile. So, I could end here. This is all the game has to offer. It's the same 5 minigames over and over. But I need to see how this ends. After all this effort, I can't just drop this adventure. I need to see Ursulab.
No one said it would be easy, but finding Ursulab will make all the hard work worthwhile. Listic!
We meet again, Frog. Only this time, I assure you, I'll be leaving with the jewel. Go. No! No! Curses! Does nothing stop you?
It took a long time, but I finally managed to collect all 36 rubies required to finish this game. Before I continue, let's quickly talk about these listic boss battles. They're totally pointless. The idea is to spell words out using letters available on the board. Each letter you use gets replenished by a new one, hence why I called it a poor man's Scrabble. This would probably be quite fun and challenging, but Listic either can't read or doesn't get the rules, because he simply places random letters on random squares. In my entire playtime, he managed to make precisely one word. And this is the one game you can't change the difficulty of. As you collect more diamonds, you begin to piece together what happened with Ursulab. The first elder doesn't tell us a whole lot, basically just find the others. The second explains there was a rumour going around that the city had a vast treasury, and that someone was plotting to rob them. This is confirmed by number 3.
We turned ourselves into 5 jewels and allowed the thieves to steal us.
4 shows up next, and Newton and MacLeod were smart enough to bring sunglasses this time. She claims the city simply vanished when the elders were stolen, and that to bring it back, all 5 elders must be reunited. Oi, Granny's garden. This is how it's done. Something that strikes me as odd is that all the guardians we've come across, you know, Bingo and all that lot, have all been animals, and yet the elders are all human. I'll leave that one up to you. After recovering the 5th jewel, disaster strikes. Listic's broken into the manor, apparently walking straight through that ridiculously secure locking system, and has kidnapped MacLeod.
Dear Frog, I have your butler. Bring the jewels to the desert. Regards, Dr. Listic. P.S. You really need a better security system. Oh?
Here it is. The climax approaches. Are we expecting one final boss battle? A gauntlet of all the games we've played? Or perhaps a quickfire game of poor man's Scrabble? Not quite. We just get one last cutscene. You've listened to me talking enough. All that's left to say is that despite the minigames being a bit dull and tedious, the plot, the artwork and the animations all more than make up for it. The voice acting is actually pretty good. It's not too overbearing, which you get with some edutainment games. And aside from a few outliers, it's cast pretty well.
It happened. It finally happened. I'm out. Yahoo! Yahoo! Yahoo!
And despite being on nationwide lockdown, I've been able to travel the world. Now, grab some popcorn and let's enjoy the ending to Jump Ahead Reading Year 2.
Well, Stanley, the stage is set for the final showdown.
The gig's up, Listic. Hand over the tablet and my butler.
You're in no position to be making demands, Frog. You can have your precious butler back when you hand back the rest of the tablet and all of the jewels.
Don't do it, CJ. I can clean as well as the next fella.
Sorry, Newton, but I have no choice.
That's a smart frog.
MacLeod, are you okay?
Just like taking sweets from a baby. Stanley, place the jewels.
He who summoned me must face one final test. The hand of the worthy one will fit in the print.
No!
Go ahead, CJ. You try it.
You're all back. This is like a dream come true. Yes, and to show our appreciation, I would like to present you with a library card for the great library of Ursulab. For this is truly where all our riches lie. As for your friends, now I've made them some jewellery. Ah, Listic, what a gem of a guy. Well, CJ, you've foiled the evil Dr. Listic, rescued all the elders, as well as your butler, and you've saved an ancient city. What are you going to do now? I'm going to Ursulab. We must make haste. Pick a site.